Alright everybody, now we are done with the gelatin troches. We're going to move on to the polyglycol troches. A lot of times I use these for actually hormone replacement, a lot of times for women. Things we're going to need our 400 ml beaker, a stir bar. We're going to need some PAM so we can spray our troche mold. Okay, that's a big difference between this and the gelatin. We're actually going to spray this with PAM to help them slide out when we're done. We need our stir bar remover, our trusty old scale, trusty old hot plate to heat up the base before we put the drugs in it. And then we will also have just our basic ingredients that we'll be using. I've got a flavoring here, a little food coloring just to show what it would look like if the active ingredient did go in, and then our base as well.
Okay, so next we're going to be going over the calculations for the polyglycol troches. So first let's go over our ingredients. So today we are actually not using the silica gel because we're not using an active pharmaceutical ingredient, but the silica gel is used to it's a suspending agent and it keeps the ingredients from falling to the bottom during the heating or cooling process. The flavoring and the food coloring help make the troches more desirable for kids. They can be colorful flavors and colorful colors and flavors. Next is our base, our polyglycol troche base, and that's the substance that is what our troche is going to be made out of. So let's go over the calculations next. Again, like before, we're using a 24 cavity well. So we're going to multiply this by 1.1 to make sure that we have enough for the 24 troches as well as a 10% extra. So we'll multiply that out, get 26.4. So when using a silica gel, again, we're not going to be using it today, but if you were using a silica gel, it would the amount would depend on the active pharmaceutical ingredient. Again, the flavor of choice, you're going to multiply by 26.4 to get the amount desired for today. So we're going to get slightly over half an ml. For the base, we're going to be multiplying by 26.4, and that's where we'll get 27.06 grams. Our food coloring, we're going to use as desired food drops. So again, like before, whenever you add liquids or powders, it displaces some of the base. So to calculate the displacement, we're going to take the amount of the base before displacement, the 27.06 grams, minus the amount of the liquid, which is 0.51. So when you subtract those out, you get 26.55 grams of the base. So again, for today, the two ingredients that we're going to be using, the flavoring, 0.51 mils, and the base, 26.55 grams.
Thank you, Caroline. Now that the calculation's taken care of, the first thing we want to do is get our glycol base going. It needs to melt, so we're going to take our 400 ml beaker. We'll weigh out our product, which I've already done. Typically, you would do that just on the scale and go ahead and tare it before you actually put the product in there. Okay. We'll go ahead and place that on our hot plate. And to get it going, I'll usually put this at about 150 to 160 to get started. Once it starts a good melt, then I'm going to go ahead and lower it down to about 100. Okay. While that's going, we want to go ahead and take our PAM and our troche mold. Don't spray your neighbors, okay? But just go ahead and spray it lightly. You can get a little bit of excess, that's fine. So we're just going to turn it upside down on our paper towel here and just let it sit there and drain all that excess while the base is melting, okay? Then once the base is melted, we're going to get all our products ready and we'll put them inside there. Alright, so my base here started getting a little liquidy, so I turned my temperature down to about 75, 80 degrees so we don't burn it. I've also added a stir bar in there to get a good mixing. This will allow to make sure our mixture is completely mixed when I add the flavoring, or if I was actually putting an active drug in it, it would actually mix it thoroughly. Okay? So, as we discussed on our calculations, we're going to do about a half ml of flavoring. My choice here is peppermint. A lot of people like it. One thing with peppermint, it is very strong. So, just go a little bit less than that half will be good. that to the side. And just to show that things getting mixed up, we're going to put a couple drops of the food coloring green in there for the mint. You can do this if you like, you don't have to, but it just allows us to see that everything got mixed. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is going to let that spin for a little while just to make sure everything is thoroughly mixed before I pour it into my troche mold. Alright, looks like it's mixed pretty thoroughly. First thing I'm going to do is turn the spin bar off. Then I'm going to take my spin bar remover, pour it out, shake it a little bit to get anything on it off. Use my handy dandy paper towel, set it off to the side. Okay. I'm also going to turn my heat off now at this time, just to help this beaker start to cool enough to touch so that I can pour the trophies. So I'm taking my mold. Looks good, looks the excess is off. As you can see, it's all on a paper towel. So we'll go ahead and place the trophy mold on here. And just as Sean did, we're going to pour this in. I always start going around the outside of my work my way to the middle here. Alright. So we're going to get this going. The first one, fill as full as you can. Just keep going around. Don't worry about getting it perfect because we will even it out as we go. And I do have a little extra, which is good. That's what we for. I'll just set that on the hot plate just in case I need it. And just like we did with Sean, we're going to go ahead and take a spatula, which we don't have to heat because we're doing the liquid versus a gelatin, and just kind of slowly just try to get everything as even as possible. And then we can use our excess to fill it all back in. Alright, so while these were drying, I went and got all my dishes and everything cleaned up, all my ingredients put away. One thing I forgot to mention is, when you're done with your beaker or pouring the troche in the mold, you want to make sure you get some hot water in that, because it does dry on there and it's a pain to get off. One simple trick is just to put a little bit of water in there, put it back on your hot plate for a little bit, just let it melt, and then once it's done, go ahead and pour it down the drain and go ahead and wash that out. Now, our troches are completely dry. It takes them a little while. You'll see how they start to get that darker green, a little hard to see through. Just like your other gelatins, you're going to close the troche mold, just like so. Place it in your sleeve. The reason we place it in the sleeve is so that we can hide it from other people seeing what the medication is if you're out in public, as well as it gives us a place to actually put our label on, and also reminds them to keep it in a cool, dry place so it does not melt. Speaking of melting, with these, the big counting points when you're doing with this is to keep it out of hot places because they will melt. Okay. The other thing is you want to keep away from children, just like we did with the gummies. You also want to make sure you take it by how your doctor prescribes it. You will start thinking they're mints, especially for the ones I've flavored mint. So you want to be really careful, make sure you take it as prescribed. And unlike the gummies, these are sublingual, so they will dissolve in your mouth, so you have to place them under your tongue. Don't chew them, don't swallow them. Otherwise you will ruin the transport way for the medication to actually get into your system. Beyond use dates, once again, it really pertains to what drug you're putting into it. But always count your patient on if the drug changes, the troche changes color, form, consistency, to throw them away and get a new prescription, because we don't want to take a chance. Use-wise, you can use these for kids, adults, all types of medications. Just go on the PCCA website, if you're part of a PCCA network, and download the formula to make sure your drug will go into that. The most popular that we see this for is actually hormone replacement therapy. A lot of women prefer doing this instead of the creams and capsules. So that's the biggest thing that I see personally being used for all the time. I want to thank you guys for your time. Thank you to Carolyn for helping us out, Sean helping us out. If you guys have any questions, we'll answer them for you.